Right guys, welcome back to the workshop. So you're probably going to think I'm completely nuts when I explain what I'm going to be doing, but I'm going to turn the camera around, explain what I want to do and explain the reasons behind why I'm doing it. Right, so ignore the mess and the clutter. I haven't actually tidied the workshop after my last project. So let me explain what I'm going to be doing. As part of the workshop makeover that I was doing, you've seen me build the miter station and drawers, and I put my planer thicknesser in the slide out drawer or shelf, whatever you want to call it. And then you've seen me building the latest cabinets and shelving. Now the plan is, in the long run, is to extend the shelving so it kind of makes use of what at the moment is dead space. So adding more shelving or more shallow cabinets. That's the plan going forward for that. Those of you that have been subscribed to the channel for a while will probably remember the last table saw table that I had, the first one I built, with the table saw actually situated inside the table. Brilliant, apart from the fact it was quite badly designed. The outfeed side of it dropped down about an inch in the few years that I was using it, and there was no real storage underneath, so all the space underneath the table saw was basically dead space. Now, if I'd have actually built these first before dismantling the old table, I probably would have realised that all I'd need to do is build a better table with the table saw actually built into it rather than separate. But at the time, I thought I would prefer to have the table saw separate and a bigger work area. But in a small workshop like I've got, I'm not happy with it. It's just not working. So what I'm going to plan to do is incorporate the table saw within that table. So as usual, I've got no plans that I'm working to. I've just got a rough idea in my mind of what I want to achieve, and I set about dismantling the old table, removing the top frame and the inner legs, which I fitted to create the half lap joints to support the top base. And then I can remove the lower sheet of ply and go from there. Then I proceeded to start dismantling the table saw base itself, and I'm going to be reusing some of this. I'm going to keep one of the rectangles that I'm going to use to support the saw, and I'm also going to be using the 4 uprights. They've already got pocket holes drilled in them, but because I've got to cut them down to the right height, I'm going to have to drill some more pocket holes in one end, and then I can work on attaching it somehow. So I started out by working out the height that the table needed to be, and then proceeded to cut the supports to the required height, using one as a template to ensure that they were all the same height. And then I could cut the front leg down, because that's where the base for the table saw is actually going to be sat on. So here I'm just working out exactly where I need the extra cross piece on the bottom frame, and then once I've located that in the right position, I can attach that with some screws, and that's what's going to take the upright supports for the base for the table saw. Then after drilling pocket holes in the freshly cut end, I could then start attaching all the uprights. I did have to use clamps in a couple of places due to the fact all this timber is slightly twisted and warped. So it needed a little bit of persuasion just to get everything lined up before driving in the pocket hole screws. And this is where the right angled bit holder that I purchased from Lidl actually come in handy. Then I could fix the top temporarily and put the table saw on. Once that was done, I could trim down the lower shelf and fit that in place. Before reattaching the inner legs, which will create a type of half lap joint, and it's just easier putting two together rather than having to notch out a single one. Not only is it easier, but it also strengthens the workbench. Then it was on to the top frame that needed to be fitted around the table saw. So I measured the table saw and then proceeded to alter the frame when necessary in order for it to fit the table saw. Then I could remove the original cross piece and space it out between the other two. Now, it's not imperative that this is dead center, but I wanted to get it as close as possible. So I'm just measuring out, making sure it's at the correct height, and then that just gets secured the same way it was the first time with screws. Then I could cut off the waste using the pull saw, and that should be the frame complete. And if my measurements are correct, this should actually fit on correctly. You might also notice that rather than being supported by four legs, as it was originally, now it's only being supported by three, but I do intend adding another couple of supports on the left hand side of the table saw, just to add a bit of extra support. Then the last thing to do before attaching the top was to notch out the frame to allow the table saw fence to actually slide. And as you can see, it works just as it should. So with all that done, I could now attach the top to the legs, cut down the top of the table and secure that from underneath. And that is the basic table complete. I've still got some things I want to do. I've got to put the mitre slots in the top, and I'm going to try and spruce it up a little bit to make it look a bit nicer. But I'm really happy with the way it's going so far, and considering I didn't have any plans, I think it's going okay so far. Right guys, well that's the basic table finished. It's not done yet by any means. I will be adding to it. There's things I still need to do, but that is going to be in the next video, so make sure you stay tuned for that. As always, I want to thank you for watching, and if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, then why not consider subscribing? I'd really appreciate that. And just to let you know, I'm now on Instagram, so feel free to head over there and give me a follow. I'd appreciate that also. So until the next video, stay safe, and you'll see me in the next one.